right, our final video for today is on genograms, which is another very universal tool that social workers and even people outside of the profession use. And so it's a visual representation of a client's family system or their support system. It can be used for different things, but it's typically looked at in a familial way. It includes like 3 generations. It'll look at different family dynamics, medical history. It really allows a visualization of what's going on in a family to help identify patterns and trends. And it's a really good data collection and reflection tool for clients. All right, so there's a lot of information involved with a genogram. We don't expect you to be experts at this. This is just kind of a general introduction and learning around it. And so there's a lot of standardized elements to it that you can find online, and it's standardized because then you can really look at any genogram and kind of know what it means. So it'll make more sense as we get into it. So this is just kind of a quick how to create a genogram. So this is the summary I just gave. It's a graphic representation of family members and relationships over at least 3 generations. So it can look a little bit different if your client has kids. Then the generations might just be their parents themselves and their kids. But if you don't have kids, the client might be client, parents, and then grandparents. It's similar to a family tree, but what makes it different, it includes critical and nodule events in family history. So it's like finding very specific things. And it's really looking at the family life cycle. So it's looking at relationship dynamics, not just like biological age, those types of things. Also, I apologize. I have a lot of cute little 4-year-old distractions next to me. So how is this tool used in social work? It helps identify who exists in the family. So a family can be very fluid. I mean, very different things to different people. In order to establish who might be available to provide social supports to a given individual. It also looks at the medical history and patterns of behavior that might be relevant to a client, or also to their believed medical or psychological status. So sometimes clients' realities don't necessarily match facts, and this is a good reflection tool for that. To also form hypothesis about family functioning, and that can be used in family therapy. So if you're noticing a pattern of substance use, it's something you can reflect back to the family, or a pattern of avoiding situations. Often families do repeat themselves, and what happens in one generation will occur in the next. All right. More reasons why this is useful. It's actually very immediately recognizable because there's universal symbols that have been identified. And so if you go into anyone's charts, the symbols will all typically mean the same thing. It shows critical patterns over time, and it's actually assembled with the family. This is not something that a document that you do independent of the family, so it's a good conversation starter. And it also helps a social worker join in with the family system, helps a social worker clarify issues so you can reflect back to it, can be modified over time, can clarify family relationships and feelings both horizontally, so between each other, and vertically, so over a length of time. And it's very flexible, and that's going to be maybe a little frustrating for you when you create your own as the assignment. There's no like right way. We just give you guidelines and tools to create it to be purposeful for yourself. So for better or for worse, it's a fluid tool, which can be really helpful, but also frustrating. All right, so how do you get started? So I'm going to kind of walk you through how you will begin to create this. So first, you're going to start with yourself or your client. We call that the index system. So I also like to call it the point of reference, but the index system is kind of the like technical term. So you have standard symbols that you have to use. So any circle is someone who is identifies as female, and a square is someone who identifies as male. This is usually the sex assigned at birth, because there are other symbols to show transgendered, male to female, female to male. So this is typically if the female was born female and identifies as female, you use a standard circle symbol and this standard square symbol for the male. You usually put the age in the middle, name, date of birth, this is the kind of information that, again, you don't have to include all of this, but this is how I've organized it. So where they were born, kind of some presenting issues and things that they've achieved in their life and their current employment. So for the sake of our example, Kristen is our index system point of reference or client. So looking again, here is our client, Kristen. I chose to go to the generation above, so it would be her parents. And Mommy, so, yes, Quinn?
I stepped in a poopy diaper.
You stepped in a poopy diaper? Okay.
Poopy diaper, but I didn't get no poop on.
You have no poop on your foot. Okay, perfect. I'll take care of it when I'm done with this.
Okay.
So you have the client, and then so her parents right here. So lines indicate that this is the relationship. So her father, Howie, and her mother, Myrna, produced her. And so you can see this line here means they're no longer married due to Myrna's death in 2015. So she was 53 when she passed away. This I added in her cause of death, what she did for a living, and kind of her level of education. Again, don't need to add necessarily those things, but those are going to be helpful to continue seeing trends. So if you're seeing that there's a lot of cancer, okay, that's something you might want to make note of. If you're seeing that people are dying early, it's something you want to take note of. And so her father, Howie, remarried Janet during 2017. So I noted it right there, again, showing their current ages and pertinent information. So you can see the narrative up here. Things that you really want to kind of hone in on are names, statuses. So that would be like married, ages, date of birth, current or last place of residence, health status, education level, all of those fun things. And it's okay to put them right next to it in the narrative. So again, squares are male, circles are female, X's across a person indicate that they are deceased. All right, so we still have Kristen, our client, right here, her parents at that generational level, but now we're filling out people who her siblings are at this generational level. So you always want to do your siblings or children in order of birth, so eldest to youngest. This family had all girls. This is their information, date of birth, where they live, kind of what their thing of employment is. Eventually, you're probably going to add in like relationships. So let's say if Lori and Kristen had a really negative relationship, you would draw kind of like lightning bolt type looking lines showing that there's conflict. And I'll show you those relationship lines in further slides. But again, we're just organizing right now. So you have one generation here, and then this is the next generation. So now things are getting more fun and complicated. We're throwing in the spousal relationship to your client. And so this client, Kristen, has only been married once to Liam. And so if they were to be divorced, you would do the two lines showing that the relationship was not together anymore, but you're showing that this has now created a union. And so if you're thinking back to this slide, it would fall into right here. You would draw the line between her sister and her by putting the husband-client relationship right there. All right, so now we're adding that third generation with the children. So Liam and Kristen had 3 miscarriages, and these were the date of miscarrying. I chose to do a triangle because this is kind of the non-gendered symbol. The X isn't through there because it wasn't a pregnancy that produced a live birth. And so there's the X's. This shows that they had difficulty conceiving, but they were able to conceive twins in 2013, George and Nina, so boy and girl. Typically you can see I did an error here. Liam is supposed to be a square, not a circle. Typically they for some reason, they order males before females in situations like this. It's probably a gender biased thing. I wouldn't necessarily expect that to be something you would have to do or be consistent with. You'll typically find that happens to be the ordering of left to right is male to female. All right, so now you have the third generation in this client system's life. You could choose to do all of the siblings kids as well, if it was pertinent information, it'll get really busy. But if it's something that's really helpful to see that Susie had no problems getting pregnant and has had 5 children with no effort, did that impact Kristen and Susie's relationship? Things like that. All right, so going to here, you can also put up the other generation. So this would be a 4th generation in this situation, looking at Myrna and Howie's parents. You could see that there was heart failure, another cancer, and then Myrna also had cancer. Just information that might be helpful as well. And you can see that Howie's parents died young, 44 over here. However, Myrna's parents are still living to this day. So that could be a relation to explore, saying if their daughter is no longer living, is there still a relationship between Howie and George or Howie and Paulette? But you can see that the symbols continue to be consistent. So you also want to add any non-relatives who are important to your family. So place these persons on the drawing and gather information. And so as you would do for your children. So in this situation, Liam and Kristen have Tiffany, who happens to be a live-in nanny for George and Nina. Been present since they were 6 months old. So you can see there's a double line between Nina and George, and Tiffany and George, and Nina and Tiffany. Double lines indicate very strong relationships. And so since she's been with them for the past 9 years and lives with them, there is a very strong relationship. Now you could get even more detailed. Let's say Liam and Tiffany were having some sort of affair. You would draw a line between Liam and Tiffany for that, and then that might cause friction between Liam and Kristen and Tiffany as well. So that would be things that start to come out from that. So you want to add symbols for significant issues in the life of your family or your client or yourself. If there's a history of substance abuse, you might want to add flags to signify which family members were users, who were enablers. There's different colors for different illnesses. If there's a history of abuse, so whether sexual, physical, emotional, there's other types as well. And so I will link these into Sakai, but you can see these are some of those lines that I was talking about. Is if there's a hostile relationship, really skinny ones is violence, distrust, in love, best friends, very close. There's a lot of different ways to indicate that. So there's the emotional relationships, family relationships, the basic genogram symbols. So you got the twins that I showed before. Pregnancy is the triangle. I think I incorrectly said that was gender neutral, so I apologize for that. Here's some of those colors denoting addictions and mental concerns. So different diseases have different colors. All those fun things. So I will link those for you to look at as well. So here I put some other symbols in. I'm going to link the PowerPoint so you can refer back to it as well, because you're going to want this for your genogram assignment. I am very appreciative that there is a lot of inclusion with gender and gender fluidity, because that's very important for people to be able to express themselves how they want. You can see relationship comments, all those types of things. So these are the things that they can get very complicated. So these are the things that you really want to try to focus in on, because it's going to kind of tell the best story for your client symbol system. Try asking about each relationship, but only mark areas that are noteworthy or relevant to treatment, and that will be beneficial for the assignment. And you can always refer back to the genogram if you want to get more information if something comes up that wasn't covered initially. So here's just some examples of what they can look like. And so looking for the client, they used a key to indicate bipolar alcohol use. You can see the 3 generations. This one is tracking heritage. So this is the key and what the colors all mean. And you can see how culture played out from here to there. Here's another one showing a lot of relationships. Just a minute, babe. And all those different types of things. And this is actually on Princess Diana. So if you like the royal culture, this is the genogram of the royal family. Another one where it gave actual narrative there. And then I'm going to have you guys practice this